My first system was the Atari 1200, I believe, and I remember I have a nephew. His name's Tyrone, and we grew up together, and we were always gaming. I remember we spent one weekend when Super Mario Brothers first came out on that first Nintendo system. Man, I wish we had it now. But just the idea of, wow, look at, we're making these missions. You die, we take turns, and it was just a love that developed right away. I think it was, competing with yourself somewhat, but then growing up with my son, when I had my son, I introduced him to gaming, and it was really a vehicle for us to build our relationship, right? Before he could play, he would watch me play.
I am so grateful for the opportunities I get to meet interesting and very, very intelligent people. And Madeline Black is one of those people. I got to know her about a year ago or so. We're going to work with ALP. She supported some of the work that we were doing out in Vancouver with administrators, and just what a awesome person she is. And she really is one of these interesting people that has a lot of different passions. I wrote a blog post recently about a time we shared on the golf course on my series on Delight. I'll post that link here as well. But also her she's a gamer, right? And that was an interesting twist to the many things that she's passionate about, and just has such I really want to say childlike curiosity when it comes to so many things, and I just so much appreciate that about her. And so it's always a pleasure to spend time with her and to hear kind of her perspective. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience in education, but her newfound, and it's not as new as I thought, but a newish found passion around gaming is what we're going to talk about today. So enjoy my conversation with Madeline Black. Well, I'm excited today to be with my good friend Madeline Black. Madeline and I have got to know each other a little bit through our work with Advanced Learning Partnerships, and it's been just a joy and a treat to spend time with Madeline. And if you want to know more about a special day that Madeline and I had together, I'll put a link in this podcast to a blog post I wrote about another passion of hers. That's not what we're actually going to talk about today, is golf, which I've got to know a little bit about from her in terms of how that came to be. But we're going to talk about something else, which I'll not say what that is. You can, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can maybe guess from her background what it is, but I won't even say anything. I'll just start with letting Madeline introduce herself to us. So just tell us a little bit about who you are before we get into the actual thing we're going to talk about today.
Well, I am, just a lifelong learner, like a lot of people we run across. I just love learning about new things, and that led me down a winding path to education. Used to be a computer programmer for many years, and then I decided, after working with some adults and actually the auto plants teaching computer classes, I'm like, man, I really like to teach. And my sister is like a 30-year educator, 35-year educator, looking to get back into school now. So I got into education. I came up through the ranks, classroom teaching, and ended up in leadership positions, the principal, assistant principal, director, finally a superintendent. And through that, though, one of the things that's been consistent throughout my professional career and personal career is just building relationships, and deep and meaningful relationships with adults and children. It's just been one of the hallmarks. So I'm really excited that our work at ALP has introduced me to so many wonderful people who have that same mindset.
Well, it's been, and that's something I would echo as you've shared that. Is that's one of the things I've appreciate you is you're a curious person, and curiosity is something that I always think is such a valuable trait to have. Like you're a master at building those relationships that I've observed. So that's really been one of the many things that I really love about the time we've spent together. But today, in our outside the classroom conversation, is looking at people's interests beyond the education side of it. Although in this case, there's quite a direct link. But for many people, they don't see that link. So you have recently, I think it's recently, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, uh, had a dive into the world of esports and gaming, which is something that we are doing a lot of work within ALP. But you're not doing it just as a facilitator on the sidelines. You are a gamer, if you will. And so, can just talk a little bit about how did that passion emerge, and just yeah, talk about gaming a little bit.
Yeah, I remember, way back in the day, I can say that now that I'm older, but I remember Pong coming out on one of the first systems we had out there. I believe maybe, and I remember the time of like, Tandy computers and what was it? My first system was the Atari 1200, I believe, and I remember I have a nephew. His name's Tyrone, and we grew up together, and we were always gaming. I remember we spent one weekend when Super Mario Brothers first came out on that first Nintendo system. Man, I wish we had it now. But just the idea of wow, look at we're making these missions. You die, we take turns, and it was just a love that developed. Right away. I think it was, competing with yourself somewhat. But then growing up with my son, when I had my son, I introduced him to gaming. And it was really a vehicle for us to build our relationship, right? Before he could play, he would watch me play and tell me some different tips and what to do. And I found that really wonderful. And then I was mentioning to you earlier in our conversation, I was babysitting my 3 and 4 year old niece and nephew, and I'm getting them into gaming. I had them on my lap with the Xbox controller, playing a game, Ryan something, racing the car. And that little 3 year old was getting in, the 4 year old. And I was like, man, I really, introducing that into their lives, I think creates that curiosity. So for me, um, gaming has just been part of my personal enjoyment, and also helps me keep a bond with my son. Even now, he's 29, and we could get online, and he's across the world in Australia, and we could still be in the same world and bond together. That nephew we played earlier this week, so it's just been really wonderful. So that's the personal side. So I had this love mainly for systems like the PlayStation, Xbox, and now I started more into the PC realm of games with League of Legends and Rocket League. A whole new world opened up. So I'm really on fire with that now, trying to achieve more in my levels. And I have my Switch, and it's just a whole nother side I didn't really think about. And then it's growing in schools, right? It's really become a vehicle for growing those critical skills, those global skills, digital citizenship, all those things we want to see in our kids, and helping some students come out from the shadows of gaming, so to speak, out from the basement, out from their rooms, and coming and working with other adults. So adults need to learn how to do that. There's different pedagogies and strategies that could go into that and coaching. So I'm able to unite both worlds. So it's really fun. That was a lot.
Yeah, I didn't know sort of the history that you had with this. So this isn't entirely new. Like you have a sort of a gamer's mindset or spirit in you for a long time.
Mhm.
Just from that personal side of it, just tell me a little bit about like what is it about gaming itself that sort of feeds your soul, if you will. I don't know if I'm getting too
No,
esoteric here, but like what is it about that experience that says like, yeah, this is why I do this thing, right? It's there's a cerebral and an emotional aspect to this that appeals to you.
yeah, I think the challenges, the puzzles, like the game I'm playing right now is called Dying Light 2. And I'm actually at a spot where I have to jump up on these ledges and I can't figure it out. So I cut the game off last night, and, I'll go back, I'll look around, I continue to think, resist the urge to go to YouTube and, don't give up and just keep pushing myself because it's something that that can be done. And it's
Right.
not such a high bar that it's impossible, and other people have figured it out. So it gives you that. I was talking recently in a webinar about gamification and education. And, when people think gamification, not necessarily playing games, but setting goals and levels for student achievement, not, pizza party type stuff. So I think like with badging and things of that nature. So I think seeing those achievements over time and sticking with something is what it feeds me. And it's exciting too.
Well, and yeah, and I think you're obviously the kind of person that can easily take that experience and then transfer it to other parts of your life, right? Like that
Mhm.
idea of being able to overcome something. And I mean, I think part of this conversation to me is always about how do I help, whether it's parents or any adult, sort of understand, even if they're not gamers, how do they
Mhm.
help? How do we help them understand that there's a value in this, and it's not the
Mm.
stereotypical idea of addiction and
Right.
sort of this waste of time kind of
Yes.
thing. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's an important conversation, and you shared that really
Well,
powerful.
I can say, for example, it's and a lot of times younger people online, but I was playing the other day and people could jump into your world and help you. So out of the blue, I've had two people come and help me throw down special items, things I need, take me on a tour around and help me out. And this is the thing. The headphones aren't plugged in. We did this all without any language transpiring between us outside their character looking at me and kind of saying, come on. When I didn't come, they came back for me. And I think that feeds me too. It's like so much is happening in the world, so many sad things, so many people not getting along, the rage that we're experiencing. So to have something like that
Yeah.
where we don't even know each other, but we're there to support and help each other gives you faith, and renewal in what human, kind is capable of. Yeah.
Yeah, that collaboration, I think, again, is something that a lot of people don't see. They don't recognize that this is not an isolated experience. And yet, I think about, the day-to-day work that you and I do, which is somewhat isolating. We're at home, we're
Hmm.
in our home offices, we're doing everything virtually. But these moments, and
Hmm.
you and I work together on other things together. The fact that,
Hmm.
we're going to hop in on have a quick conversation and help one another out in something. I mean, that's about community and that's about connection that
Hmm.
I think is a critical part of any learning experience. And so esports sort of has that built-in function to it. I mean, that's how that works. So why don't you just share a little bit about the actual work you're doing with esports itself in schools, and kind of what that learning experience has been like for you.
Hmm. So, really the the goal is to get esports down into the hands of the students, right? Where they're experiencing it. But I've done some work around strategic planning with district leaders, right? Because it's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of red tape, a lot of money. Sometimes that goes into these things, and how do you recruit people? How are you going to pay people to do this? So that part of it is really been exciting to help adults who may have never picked up a game controller or may not even be gamers to actually see the value in esports. I know one implementation I've been working with, one of the champions now, who's a coach, came in thinking was a traditional sports guy, right? Football. And he was like, I don't know, but now he's an advocate, right? And that came from some of the things around esports outside of, like you said, oh, it's a waste of time, it's this and that. Esports is $1 billion industry, and the opportunities for students who do this professionally or even support it in careers is just phenomenal. You have college scholarships now, millions of dollars for students, even full rides to go in and be part of an esports team. And then you have production and streaming and the programming around it. So all those things come into play to help parents see the value in it. And then the other work I got to do this summer, I had worked with a summer camp. I was actually with the students, which was wonderful. That was great to actually watch them enjoy some of the fruits of the labor of kind of working with leadership. So it's two pronged. It's the planning, the paperwork, but then it's also at the end of it, you get to see that excitement enjoy in students' faces, and parents to be able to come to competitions, right? And see their child excelling at something outside of, you know, hearing them be happy in the basement or something like that, right? And then I just want to reiterate again the importance of esports in bringing it to school, having students put together sort of contracts, of behaviors, right? What do we stand for as a club? What is our code of conduct? How do we treat women in esports, girls in esports? Talk about tilting, right? Tilting is you can get really angry with these video games, right? How do you deal with that frustration? How do you breathe through it? Look at the health and wellness. What are the exercises you can do around it? So it just really gives, I think, the due legitimacy that this industry has for students and their futures.
And I think too, the other thing that's really maybe different with esports relative to some of the other extracurricular or even curricular things that we offer students is that obviously the students come with a wealth of knowledge in the actual playing. Where you think of traditional sports, the hierarchies are pretty much in place. Like the coach is who knows, and the coach is doing all the teaching. Whereas what you've described is more of um, you know coaches and facilitators using their life experience and wisdom to
You
support them. They
got
don't
it.
necessarily have to have the same level of understanding of the game itself, and they're not necessarily going to provide a ton of coaching to, how to actually navigate the various elements of the game, but they are going to be really important in helping them, think through those things that you described, whether it's like how to sort of deal with the mental challenges and how to deal with the emotional challenges and the collaboration challenges. So I
Yeah.
think that's where any adult, and that's where, again, my understanding of esports is far less than yours, but I feel like that's the part where I can kind of have an entry point into the experience
Absolutely.
and say,
Oh,
I think
yes.
I think I can participate in this, in the support of this too. So that
Well, you
that's
want to
that.
have a little street credit, Dean. So we got to get you on the game. Maybe we'll get you
Yeah,
in
I
some
do.
League of Legends, some Rocket League. When you talk to the
Yeah, yeah,
kids, you want
yeah.
to at least have a couple titles under your belt.
Well, and especially with I know I've got these grandkids that are coming up, and I'm sure they're already their dad is a heavy gamer, a pretty
Yeah.
big gamer, and so I think that's going to be a part of it. So I'm definitely going to have to dip my toe a little bit more
Well,
deeply into this world. But
please.
I'm really excited to watch this cool stuff you're doing.
And I'll say too, sometimes people say esports teams, like I have the stadium here behind me. Yes, that's for the top level athletes, just like in basketball, football. Not everybody's going to be at the top echelon earning, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, right? Over their career. But esports clubs are so beneficial to schools where it's an entry point for kids just to get those socialization skills to work together and then maybe go into an esports team. You could do intramural competitions and different things of that nature.
Right.
Yeah, so it's more than just one esports team. It could be so much more richer.
Well, again, this conversation is a little bit different from my others in that there's such a direct line between you as an educator and this world. So that one's pretty obvious. But I'll leave you with just always a last question. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about this experience that maybe I didn't ask you, or just an element that you thought is important for people to know about, whether it's about your personal experience with gaming or as an esports coach in some way? Just want to leave you with
Um,
that last opportunity.
I would say, because I'm assuming your audience is a lot of educators out there who just want to see something different. Don't be afraid of esports. Really take a chance, take a time and look at it. Think about it for your schools. Even if you're, advocate for it to start a small club at your school, if it's not a district initiative, um, you know, don't think that, oh, maybe I'm too old or I don't know enough. Investigate it, look at it, survey some kids and see what interests are there, because you may reach some kids that uh, may not have been reached before. And I'll end with that because I'm all about building relationships. And sometimes the kids who game sometimes are not the ones who are the most outgoing in the school, right? The ones that just pop into your mind as like with traditional like football stars, basketball stars, the coaches. It's some kids who may be, lurking in the shadows a bit.
Yeah, and I appreciate that's such an important perspective, and I'll just maybe add to that, which is you're
And
saying
I shouldn't say
is
lurking, just in the shadows. No lurking.
yes, yeah, is that as adults, number one, to sort of see that as like, okay, this is actually good for kids in this way, but also to figure out your
Yes.
own entry points. Like if you do crossword puzzles, you're kind of a
Yes.
gamer, right? Like
Yes.
you did a nice job of explaining that at the beginning. It's about solving problems, and if you
Hmm.
like doing that, even in that case, because again, people could make the argument that crossword puzzles and wordles are, well, that's just a waste of time. It's in the same category, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's a brain activity that gets us thinking, that gets us that has value, and again, as thoughtful and caring educators, we can change it from just being a one-off kind of experience to something really, really powerful. And that's the work that you're
Absolutely.
doing and have done, and I so value. So thank you, Madeline, for this time together. I appreciate, I know you've got a lot of stuff to do between your golf and your gaming and your nieces and nephews and the consulting you do.
I do.
Got
I
a
got a
busy
lot
life.
on for it. And I want to just thank ALP, shout out for esports and John McCarthy. He worked, he's really big in esports. I can't thank him enough for bringing me in.
Oh, that's great, and glad to have you. So take good care. We'll
Okay.
talk soon.
All right. Bye bye.